When Isaac realized what had happened, he called out to his wife, "Rebekah, come here." He had never been so agitated before. He was struggling to hold back the anger rising inside him. "Even if I am old and blind, how could you deceive me like this?" Rebecca answered with a steady gaze, "I'm sorry, but there was no other way. This was part of God's plan." "What? God's plan? Deceiving me and stealing the blessing. That's God's plan? How can you even say that?" "You know what God said when I was pregnant with the twins, don't you? The older will serve the younger. I told you, Jacob, not Esau, was meant to become the heir of this family, but you insisted on Esau. To fulfill God's will, I had no choice but to act." Since Isaac understood what she meant, he had no grounds to argue, but he still couldn't accept what she had done. "You've treated me with contempt. Otherwise, you would never have dared to do this." "I'll not forget what you did today. Never." "Please, don't say that. I did what I had to do as your wife." "No, if you had regarded me as your husband, you could never have done this." Rebecca spoke firmly, as if she had already made up her mind. "Listen, you said I don't regard you as my husband. Then, have you truly regarded me as your wife?" Startled, Isaac asked, "What are you talking about?" "Do you remember when we went to Gerar to escape the famine?" "Of course, I remember." "Then you must also remember what you said when people there asked about me. You said, 'She's my sister.' How does that even make sense? Didn't you realize the danger that would put me in?" Isaac felt a sharp sting in his heart. She had brought up what he least wanted to remember. "Who did I trust when I left Haran and came to this foreign land? You, and you alone. I believed you would protect me, but after what you did, I couldn't trust you anymore." She had buried these thoughts deep in her heart, but now the words poured out like a flood. "I thought, can I really trust a man like this and live with him?" I also told myself, "He is my husband. I will accept him as he is." But the memory of you lying about me never left me. Maybe you're right. Maybe I have looked down on you. But tell me, what woman can respect her husband who can't protect her? Every word she spoke pierced his heart. To tell the truth, he had been weighed down by guilt since that day. He had blamed himself again and again for not being able to say confidently, "She's my wife." He had been subdued and could never raise his voice at her. Isaac said nothing more and walked out of the tent. Night had fallen. Pale moonlight cast a faint glow over him. The cold night air made him shrink into himself. Not knowing where to go, he wandered aimlessly outside the tent. He heard Rebecca weeping inside the tent. The sound tightened around his heart. Isaac whispered to himself, "You are right, Rebecca. It's all my fault." Memories from long ago began to surface in his mind. That evening, Isaac went out into the field at sunset. His heart was filled with a longing for his late mother. Just then, a group of people approached from afar. They were the servants returning from Haran. Among them, a young woman caught his eye. She carried herself with a quiet grace that reminded him of his mother. As he came closer to her, someone said, "She's Rebecca, a close relative of yours." Isaac brought her into the tent where his mother had lived, and through Rebecca, this gentle and lovely woman, his sorrow began to ease. For a time, they lived as a happy couple, but somewhere along the way, a deep crack had begun to form between them. How had it come to this? Isaac and Rebekah were a couple with very different temperaments. Isaac was passive and indecisive. When faced with conflict, he didn't fight but responded defensively. When treated unfairly, he would rather accept a loss and step back than seek compensation. He was also a reticent man. Instead of engaging in open argument, he kept his thoughts to himself and remained silent. Such a person may seem gentle and compliant, yet carries hidden wounds. Rebecca, on the other hand, was the complete opposite, active and decisive. She left Haran in Mesopotamia without hesitation, crossed the Euphrates River, and finally came to Canaan after a journey of 500 miles. She was more decisive than Jacob in deceiving Isaac and securing the blessing. She was the one who arranged for Jacob to flee to Haran to escape Esau. She was a strong and self-directed woman. Isaac and Rebekah were so different that they needed honest communication to understand each other. Yet, Scripture records only one conversation between them. Even there, only Rebekah's words are preserved, not Isaac's. This suggests how little they spoke to one another. Because of this, Isaac and Rebekah couldn't fully understand each other. And over time, unfulfilled expectations gradually eroded their marital affection. When spouses lack love, they often seek it from their children. Genesis chapter 25 verse 28 says that Isaac loved Esau because he enjoyed the game Esau brought him. Those words carry a deeper meaning than the text alone seems to convey. Esau grew into the man Isaac admired. Isaac was drawn to Esau's bold and outward nature as a hunter. In Esau, he saw the kind of leadership he lacked and took delight in it. That's why he tried to make Esau his heir, even though he knew God's oracle. Unlike Isaac, Rebekah loved Jacob. She never forgot the oracle she had received from God. Therefore, her heart leaned more toward Jacob than Esau. More than that, she had seen Jacob being overlooked by his father. Whenever Esau returned from hunting, Isaac would look at him with a proud smile. Watching this, Jacob would think, "Why can't I be like my brother? Why doesn't father look at me with that affection?" Rebekah understood Jacob's sense of isolation better than anyone. Her maternal heart ached for the son who wasn't loved by his father. In the end, she resolved to do whatever it took so that Jacob would receive his father's blessing. When parents favor one child over another, it means neglecting the other. Isaac was indifferent toward Jacob and Rebekah toward Esau. Esau could brush off his mother's lack of affection with his outgoing nature, but Jacob was different. He was vulnerable and sensitive. He carried a deep wound from his father's lack of love. As time went on, that wound grew deeper, and his sense of rivalry toward Esau intensified. His desire to grasp and hold on grew stronger. One day, his father chose to bless Esau alone, leaving Jacob out. At the moment, his pain reached a breaking point, and it drove him to justify deceiving his father for the blessing. The strained relationship between spouses led to favoritism, which fueled rivalry between the brothers. In the end, it gave rise to the tragic event. This shows what can happen when communication breaks down within a family. This cannot be blamed on any one person alone. It is far more complex than that. Scripture gives us a close look at the families of the three patriarchs, Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. All of their families carried their own struggles. They had difficulties in their marriages, in their relationships with their children, and among siblings. They all bore the marks of various kinds of painful wounds. And yet, Scripture tells us one hopeful truth. Despite their painful wounds, God healed them and led them along the path of faith. Let us take a moment to look back on our own families. Have there been painful or tragic moments in your family relationships? Are there wounds that have not yet healed? Let us not be quick to blame others, nor to reproach ourselves too harshly. Don't lose hope, even when relationships have been broken. Our wounds don't define us. Wounds may be part of our story, but they are not the whole of who we are. We have Jesus, who heals our wounds. Jesus understands our wounds and our pain. He was wounded long before we ever were. He was betrayed. He was denied. He was humiliated. Eventually, he was killed before any of us ever went through those things. Because Jesus suffered and overcame his wounds before us, he can heal our wounds as well. The wounded healer is with those who are wounded, and he becomes their hope. He heals us and guides us to the path of new life. As Isaiah chapter 53 verse 5 says, "By his wounds we are healed." Let us bring the problems and wounds of our family before Jesus. Ask him to heal our wounds and restore our relationships. And if there is anything we can do to move toward healing, let's take that step.